Have you finished scrolling? Good to go.
I'm good to go. A lot happened on the weekend. There's quite a lot on the social medias.
There is a lot on the socials, and I'm trying to work out whether I'm proud or a little jealous of the bloody Kiwis once again stripping us of glory.
Oh, I'm just claiming him. Lawrence Pithy's an
he's Aussie
Australian.
now?
Well,
Okay.
the thing is, on the start list, they have little flags next to their names quite often.
Yes.
Sometimes just the three-letter country code, but sometimes the flags. And for all intents and purposes, the New Zealand flag is the Australian flag when it's,
When it's minuscule.
when it's a third of your pinky fingernail.
Yep.
So
You reckon that's grounds? Okay, yeah,
Close
fair.
enough.
I like it. We're going to talk about Cadel's Great Ocean Road Race. Catherine Bates was there commentating and doing a brilliant job of it as well. Well done, Lawrence Pithy, and I'm going to say Rosita Gina Reinhout as well for an extraordinary result. 2 first-timers. So much to unpack. But that's not all that's happening this week, Catherine. We're going to talk a little bit about the Olympics, another bit of a stoush with the UCI from a bit of a regular suspect, same old suspect that's
well,
come
it's
out and had a
good that
dig.
this week we can have a WTF UCI segment that it's not us bagging the
It's not-
UCI.
That's what the UCI probably opens its emails every day and goes, okay, we're going to have one from Kate Bates and we're probably also going to have one from this person.
This is important because I believe that Mr. Lapatien is coming to Australia soon.
Yes.
Around the Brisbane Cycling Festival.
Bro-
We would love to have him in the studio here.
Oh.
So,
Look,
David,
I'm lost for words.
we'd love to have you on set.
Hang on, sorry, Mercy.
Ignore all the other videos.
Can we just go on Kate really quickly and just record a quick pitch to David? Just
Here we go. You're on.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Hello, Mr. Lapatien. We are not like Johan Brunel. We don't just throw out insults for no reason. We think that sometimes your technical regulations are overburdening and perhaps hold back the sport. And I do have a bit of an issue with the scheduling in the women's side, but for the most part, we think you're tops. And we'd really love to have you in the studio.
Okay, that was great.
Bravo.
Cool. That'll
do you
get
think?
him in, I reckon.
Yeah?
There's a chair here for him.
Okay.
excellent, Mercy. Now we'll go again. Now this time press record. Okay, Kate, go. No, that was awesome. And a very, very... Hello, Mercy. How you going in the bunker inside the bunker?
I'm good. Just worked on the Test cricket for Fox Sports. It was really good. Amazing
What a
ending.
result.
Hold on. Now, this is actually a really good discussion because on Australia Day weekend, you would think that it would be un-Australian to cheer for any sports people that are not Australian. But Merksy at the cricket, that was the most amazing finish I've ever seen to a cricket match. And sorry, but I wasn't cheering for the Aussies. I wanted to see the West Indies win and the story.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, down at Cadel's, I was really cheering for, at one point, Cecilia Trup-Ludwig was nailing
Yes.
it, and then Ryan Howard at the end. Like, it was actually just great sport. And you want the Aussies to be on top, but even if they're not, it's still great sport.
Oh, so well said. Such an incredible result when a team of underdogs, I think the West Indies cricket team brought 7 debutantes to Australia, and I thought they were going to be absolute cannon fodder. You know what? Everyone thought they were going to be absolute cannon fodder except themselves, and they went out and proved that.
Well,
before.
and Merksy, you said they were like really cool guys and really friendly when you were on the
they're
field with the
excellent
camera.
fellas. They had a good time with us doing the Fox Rover camera. Unlike some of the other players, perhaps.
And not naming names.
No,
Yeah.
well,
G'day, Steve Smith.
It's the Wheelhouse Podcast. We do what we want. Look, it was awesome. It was so good. Shamar Joseph, young 2-gamer, 7 wickets, just like that. It was extraordinary. And, bringing it back to cycling, it is young superstars on the rise that have been lighting up the Australian summer for the most part as well. We saw it at the Tour Down Under. We saw it at Cadel. So let's start with Lawrence Pithy and what I will compare to Melbourne Cup Day at Flemington Racecourse when there's a tight finish and you've got a ticket in your hand that could be worth either $0 or thousands of dollars depending on what you've waged. I don't know. I don't really punt, but people go through this. It was a little bit like that. It was an absolute nail-biter, Kate.
it was. Throw to the line. Lucky he's got long limbs.
Yeah, I was going to say, does arm length, that's when it's really
Absolutely.
I'm glad I didn't take up basketball because these
Yeah.
arms are really coming in handy on
Yeah,
the
the
bike.
throw comes in very handy, but he's also a very handy track rider.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of throwing that happens on the track. Like if you think in a points race for the men, 20, 25 sprints, depending on the distance, every time they're throwing and practicing in Madison, Omnium. So he's good at it.
He's good at it, Merksy.
I just wanted to say that someone who's good at bike throwing, it was his birthday during the week, Peter Sagan, 34.
Knew you'd get that in somehow. Good segue.
Yeah, hey, look.
Happy belated birthday.
You can keep going now.
Pedo.
Thank you. I love it. You've spotted the opening and you've seized it.
Bike
Happy
throw.
birthday.
Couldn't throw a bike.
It is.
Yeah.
Could throw it well. There's a couple of others who could throw a bike, but
Best bike
potentially-
throwers. We'd love to hear yours. Who are the best
Hold
bike
on, but
throwers?
this is important to differentiate. We're not
Yeah.
talking about getting a flat or a mechanical and hurling the bike, because
Okay.
there's quite a few that are in that category too. We're talking about to the line for
But
the
actually
win.
throwing it forward, that final,
Yes.
like the swimming thrust, like the
Yes.
final
Yeah,
final
the
lunge
final
at the wall.
push.
I'm
Well,
surprised the UCI haven't banned the bike throw.
Do not
I
give them
know.
any ideas.
No, I know.
We
Please.
still want you to come onto the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're available
Please.
at that time. We'll slide into your DMs, but it'd be funny because they'd change the rule and they'd make it something like contorted, like no bike, it must have no arms. Wait a sec, no, that's not going to work. And then all of a sudden we go through the whole UCI.
You realise
the
we're
rule's not
blocked
working.
to their DMs.
Yeah.
But no, look, Lawrence Pithy, let's get back to like the important stuff here.
Yes.
He was twice junior world champion on the track in
Yes.
2019. He's in the Omnium and in the Madison. You've got to have a fair bit of speed and agility as well as some endurance and going power. So it hasn't come out of nowhere to see him succeed. He's had some lower level wins, like at 1.1s, but this is his first World Tour win.
Yep.
It was brilliant.
I like that too. I like that across the summer because we spoke about this again at the Tour Down Under, that it's like not exactly overnight success stories. It's not. We spoke about the West Indies. That was a genuine. These guys, like Shamar Joseph, hadn't even been to a Test match before, let alone played in one. That's a genuine out of nowhere. But these aren't. There's hard work behind all of them.
No, and look, he's 20, and so he's kind of old compared to
20.
some.
Give it up,
Some
mate. Give the
of
young
them.
ones a go.
No, look, I went looking actually
Yep.
to see how young, because I feel like we've had quite a few victories this season where they're quite young. Like Del Toro at the Tour Down Under, he was 20. Oscar Onley atop Wollonga, he was 21. Lawrence Pithy, 21. Rosita Reinhardt, she's only 19.
Mm-hmm.
So really young. And so I was like, oh, I wonder, like on a greater level, if we're seeing the World Tour get younger.
Yeah, that's
like,
interesting.
You know, because I thought,
Yep.
I feel like every year we're like, wow, they're just getting younger these days. But interestingly, on a World Tour average, they're not getting younger at all.
Okay.
Like if we're just talking average age, in 2001, the average age was 29.
Okay.
In 1983, it was 26.5.
Oh, wow.
And now it's about 30 is the average
they've
age
aged
across the world. Yeah, so they've actually aged up. So it is interesting because if you look back through history, we've had 3 quite young winners of the Tour de France in the last 25 years. Pogacar, he actually won on his 22nd birthday. I mean, the statistic says 21 and 365 days. By my estimation, that's
That counts.
22.
Yeah.
Bernal, he was 22 and a half when he won in 2019.
Yep.
And Contador, he was 24 when he won in 2007. And they're the 3 kind of
Yep.
young ones in the last 30 years.
But
But it skews the statistics because we're like, oh, there's so many young ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Remco was 22, nearly 23 when he won Worlds.
Yes.
But by far not the youngest to have
Interesting.
ever achieved that. We've got Remco, Quinn Simmons, Ayuso. We've now got Del Toro. We do have quite a number of young riders all coming up and showing promise.
Mm-hmm.
But across the board, when you actually peel back and look at the numbers, it's not younger. I thought that was interesting.
It is
I had a
fascinating.
theory to prove,
Yeah.
and I triple checked numbers because I was proved myself wrong.
Yeah, pure data from you.
Mm.
And I think I think with Pog especially because he's such a big, successful character at that age, maybe it just creates this impression that the sport is getting younger in general.
Well,
But it's
he's
like,
a phenom, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the reason that we see these young talents excel in January.
Yeah.
And we get these first, 4 World Tour win, or 5 actually, first ever World Tour wins in the last 2 weeks in Australia. Like, how cool is that? We're like a breeding ground for new talent.
Yeah.
But realistically, there's quite a significant amount of development and training and progression that happens in the 4 months or longer during the off season.
Yeah.
And so it's not unusual. And at that age, riders develop so very quickly as well. So it's not unusual that even if they're in the World Tour last year and there or thereabouts, that at some point they'll take that big step up.
And still, I guess, as much as they've done so much before, there's a rawness to the tour that's sort of like maybe they're not fully comprehending the length and the attrition of the season just yet, potentially.
Oh, yeah. And, regardless of what happens from now on, the most common quote over the summer from any of our winners is, I can't believe it. Like either I'm speechless, I can't believe it, I don't have words yet.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, except Pithy, who said, I had to go balls to the wall to get it done.
That was probably the quote of the summer for mine. I'm glad you brought it up. Balls to the wall. Speaking of balls to the wall, hello, Merksy.
What did he mean by that?
Oh, mate, just, nothing in the tank.
I think that he was referencing his bike wheels in the shape of a semi-ball and on the road being the ball.
Oh.
I thought he meant testicles.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought he...
Okay.
I just thought it was an expression
team.
to say I just never gave up. I just gave it everything.
Okay, team, I think, yep, you're right, but thanks for...
Please help us out if you know what he meant by balls to the wall and if it's as literal as Kate thinks or more of a...
I don't think it's as literal.
No, hang on,
as
Merksy
I
was literal with
said.
the testicular reference.
Yes,
You're thinking it's very bike related. I'm thinking it's just a very general, geez, I've got some ticker.
I've never heard that one. Interesting.
Yeah. I never heard that one.
Balls go to the wall
go.
every week in this studio, Merksy.
Well, look, Miss Reinhardt,
Gina,
I nearly
yes.
called her Reinhardt again. It's too close to home there. Rosita Reinhardt, she didn't say balls to the wall.
No.
She just said, I'm just so happy, I can't believe it. But she also said when Cecily Uttrup-Ludwig had attacked, people were just kind of looking around and hesitating, and she thought,
What? Yeah.
why would you hesitate? And it was really interesting, actually, because in the media zone afterwards, when she was having longer interviews, because directly after the race, you get little grabs, but after the presentation, they get longer to ask longer questions, give longer answers. And she was sort of explaining, like, I didn't think I'd win. I didn't think it would work. But why wouldn't I try?
Yeah, why wouldn't I just give
I
it
love
everything?
that.
Yeah.
Because as a commentator, I'm often thinking that. I'm often thinking, you've got nothing to lose. Why aren't you even trying? And it dawned on me watching the Aussie national team race, and they did an amazing job, I must say, at Cadel's with Sarah Roy in the top 8. Amazing. But in some of the races before that, it was almost as though some of the riders were riding for a top 20 because to them that means a lot.
Yep.
If you're a young Aussie rider, don't have a contract yet, because they had Sarah Roy and Josie Talbot on there as the leaders, but then you had 4 other young girls. And for them, they're not going to try because they're really happy to finish in the top 20.
That's interesting. So this, I love this mental strength from Gina, aka Rosita, because it's that belief. If you don't have that belief and you're like top 20, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. Of course it is. But does that suggest that you don't have the belief that you're going to get a podium or a number 1, especially, and thus that there's a block to you actually being able to achieve it? Whereas she's like, I'm leaving myself open to everything. Lo and behold, next minute, she's starving off Cecily.
Starving off?
Starving her off.
Staving off?
Staving? I
perhaps?
say starving. I'd love to know. Look, Merksy, what do you say? Starving or staving?
No, it's staving.
Starving. I'm going to stick with starving because she was
Like
hungry
held
for the
off?
win and she held her off. Yeah.
Okay.
Starved
all right.
off a challenge. I will
Okay.
take that one. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to look that up.
Please do.
But there was a lot of talk about how young team Visma Lisa bike.
Yeah.
I had to look down because I cannot get out of the habit of calling them Yumbo.
Nailed it.
Visma Lisa bike. The average age of the team at Cadel's was, like most of them were under 22. But overall, their average age is about 24 and a half. But DSM, the average age of their team is only 22. Oof. So actually in the Women's World Tour, we do have a younger average age than on the men's side.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing about little Rosita is she's tiny, tiny, tiny. And I'm not talking like Caleb Ewan pocket rocket. If you saw her in the street, you would probably think she was a 15-year-old.
Really? Okay.
Like she's just this petite, tiny little thing.
Yep.
And on the bike, it doesn't look like that. She looks quite, I mean, let's not say she looks super tall, but she doesn't look super tiny.
Yep.
So to be able to deliver that
Awesome.
in the presentation, the other riders were like looking at her thinking like, wow, we feel old. Look who just won.
Look who just did it.
It was brilliant. I
And
loved
did it despite her, as you say, not being the biggest, tallest, most powerful looking athlete, but pulled it out.
We talk about trophies over the time. The Cadel trophy, I think it's supposed to be a wave.
Yep.
It's a big blue wave thing. I think it looks like a shark's fin. Same. You get the idea.
Yeah.
It's half her body size.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her holding it up, it looked quite funny. I thought, they need to maybe... I don't know how she was going to get that back to the Netherlands.
I hope they had a plan in place for that because the Netherlands would be very proud.
Well, did you see at the tennis, because we watched the tennis final the
So
other night.
much
Oh,
sport.
so good. How good was Sinner? But that they had a Louis Vuitton, Merksy, it was a Louis Vuitton suitcase, wasn't it,
Louis
for the
Vuitton,
trophy?
big giant box.
Yeah. They got their shit sorted out. Of course
So
they do.
I'm just putting the word out here to cycling
Yeah.
organisers. Like, let's get us some luggage for
I
these
wonder
big
if
trophies.
does Bike Bug sell any trophy bags? They
Ooh,
sell
good
everything
question.
else. 'Cause that
Maybe
could
we
work.
can put the word on them.
10% off too if you use code Wheelhouse. Just saying.
I think they carried the Cadel's trophy in an esky.
Oh, that's appropriate.
They could.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
With
Very,
the
very
fish
good.
bait.
You also
that where you
quickly.
going?
We just need to mention the Conti teams in the men's race. Bridge Lane and ARA Skip Capital.
They did.
Well, they got the KOM King of the Mountains jersey and the sprint jersey.
Well, for a long time there was just 4 of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
2 from ARA Skip Capital, 2 from Bridge Lane for 120 odd kilometres.
long
It was
time.
brilliant.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, on one hand, it possibly wasn't the best strategy because it was never going to work.
No, but they got noticed,
they got
which
noticed.
was a big deal, and
Yeah.
they got some
And
cash.
They
too.
animated it.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was great.
Excellent. A very, very successful event, I think. And some
pick-up,
talk
Maxie.
around point-to-point racing for the women potentially from next year. And I think what we saw this year was like, let's get a full bill happening.
Yeah, and quite a lot of teams departed after Tour Down Under because they were going to the Alula Tour. There's so much going on. And I would like to see the scheduling done a little bit better. UCI. We'll talk to Mr. Lapotillon
when he comes on. Yes.
About it, because Cadel's is such a cool race. It really is such a cool race, such a great atmosphere. So many people come out and do it. They do the family ride, they hang around and cheer for the riders. And so I'd like to see that whole week grow and have that full field, because it was a super high quality field.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there were only 12 teams.
Yeah.
So only 88 riders. And that's much smaller than what it could be.
Well, onward and upward.
Onward and upward.
We're celebrating the achievements of Lawrence Pithy and Rosita Gina Reinhardt here on the Wheelhouse. And can I just say one thing quickly on Rosita? Years from now, when she's talking to potentially grandchildren or someone else's grandchildren, and they say, what was your career highlight? And she said, I want to tell you about the day that I held off or starved off a challenge from Cecily. That was the highlight.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, what else did you do? And she goes, I won a Great Ocean Road Race, but the day I held off Cecily, that's the one that stands out in my memory, because that's awesome. What a flex. What a great flex.
I mean, she will always remember her first World Tour win.
Oh, won't you
So,
just?
boom
And it
to
brings up that
Australia.
whole youthful discussion. Youngest winners both happening at the same time. It's just ridiculous, Kate. Starving off, stoving off, steving off.
When I realised that I was more than double her age, I had a real moment where I was like, oh, heavens.
Yeah, I got age shamed this morning, actually. So I was like, you're 38. Yeah, shit, yeah. You really are. You're 38.
Well, I mean,
thought you
let's
were
not
like
forget
30.
I got called a boomer on YouTube.
Oh, a boomer.
I'm not quite a boomer, but that sort of put me in my age place as well. I haven't used as many lols.
We often talk about Eritrea and the wonderful rise we're seeing from bikes and incredible riders that we love getting behind. And that continued over the Aussie summer as well.
Yes, we had. I love that you mentioned this. We had the Eritrean fan club in Geelong. For
Absolutely
the Great
love
Ocean
it.
Road Race.
Yeah.
You'd remember them, Joel, from Wollongong.
Yep.
They were so loud and so colourful. They had a corner to themselves. They had their drums. They were doing everything. It was so cool. And I've since learnt that they're Melbourne-based, but they travel everywhere to see the Eritrean riders.
That's awesome.
So there's Biniam Gourmet and Natniel Tesfatsion are the two that are almost everywhere. And then there are a number of other riders in the peloton at the moment as well, but they're kind of the two big names.
Yep.
And it was so cool. The big flags, like they make it almost like the football when you go to watch the World Cup and you have all these different cohorts that are so proud of their athletes. We actually don't get a huge amount of that in cycling. Peter Sagan, that one's for you, Merksy, he brought a huge fan club of his own.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me, that was the first time I'd seen this giant group really following. And the Colombians do it as well. The Ecuadorians do it. The Eritreans do it. It's the countries that traditionally haven't had a lot of representation in sport, not just in cycling, but in sport. Where they go bananas. They're so cool.
That's what we love to see. And
Yes.
it's like we love an underdog. It's like, we were speaking about the West Indies and the unlikely success. And when we see the likes of Biniam doing as well as he's been doing, the thing with him is he's always in the mix. When fit and able, he's always up there in the mix. So it's not like Beatlemania, but it's this Binny mania.
Binny is what they call him.
Yeah.
So he won the Surf Coast Classic. I thought he'd be really good at the Great Ocean Road Race, but actually the way the climb went, he wasn't in that front group. But Natniel Tesfatsion was from Little Trek, and he got second. He was the one whose arms weren't quite good enough in the sprint throw.
Jeez.
But he got second, and it was pretty impressive.
It was.
I was like, it was the first time we had an Eritrean rider at Cadel's, and that's why the fan club had made their way down. They were really pumped to support that.
Amazing.
But it got me thinking, like, why is Eritrea so strong in cycling? I thought it all of a sudden. So I did a bit of deep dive.
You did another deep dive.
Yep.
Great.
So what I've learned is the first big rider from Eritrea was Natniel Bahani, and he won the Tour of Turkey in 2013, and he got a presidential parade through the streets of Asmara, their capital, after that. In 2015, Daniel Teklahamanot and Mohawi Kudus became the first black Africans to ride the Tour de France. Teklahamanot wore the polka dot jersey for 4 days. They got a presidential parade through Asmara when they got home as well,
Wow, okay.
which is pretty cool. But again, to the question of why are they on bikes?
Yeah.
So they've got a bit of a dark political history, but part of that was that it was an Italian colony from 1889 to 1941, and the Italians brought bikes with them.
Okay, introduced bike culture.
Culture.
Yep.
And so they have this really, really strong bike culture that they picked up from then and carried through. So they've got
awesome.
a lot of cycling clubs over there that with really rich histories back to the 1890s.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of access to bikes.
Hello, documentary.
I know, it's quite cool. And Asmara, I also learnt, is at 2,500 metres. So they grow up at a bit of
So
altitude.
no wonder they're performing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's really interesting, and they're building high performance centres there.
Yep.
And they're really getting behind it. So
I love it. I love it when a country takes a sport to another country, and then years later, the country that has had the sport introduced beats the original country.
yes.
In the case of England and cricket, it happened in about 5 minutes, but with Eritrea, it might take a little bit longer. But imagine the day that Biniam or someone who's inspired by Biniam and comes later topples an Italian for a podium at the Tour or something like that. And
yeah.
they go, why did
Well,
we take
I mean,
bikes to
Biniam Gourmet became their first Grand Tour stage winner at the
stage winner?"
Giro.
Yeah.
So there is a nice little tie in there.
Oh, we love Binny.
But we do.
Binny Mania on
Yes.
the Wheelhouse podcast.
I did tell the
Fantastic.
story on television on Sunday morning about the champagne pop,
Oh, yeah.
the cork in his eye, and my co-host looked mortified. I hadn't told him before that
Yeah.
that was a story.
You went rogue.
Yeah, I went rogue, and he looked mortified, like, what?
Yeah.
But so
It's awesome. It's so good to see that passion and that.
they're really cool. I
on
just
the
love the
stage.
fan club.
Yep. absolutely. And some wonderful stories just in general about Africa and cycling and the growth and the interest and the way it's sort of that culture crosses over with cycling culture and creates this incredible hybrid, which is extremely lively, extremely raw and extremely heartfelt.
It is. Well, the UCI's had to step in a few times because they've had a lot of trouble getting visas to go to a lot of the championships. But they've got 2 teams out of there, Team Africa Rising and Q36.5, which is Doug Ryder's formerly Didata African-based team. And so they've got plenty of support.
They do. And Doug tells a great yarn about some of the experiences, stuff that you won't see or won't hear about, stuff that happens on the bus and all of that. And it's always really fascinating. So anyway, love Eritrea. Go Binny and Binny Mania all the way right here, right now. Kate, it has been hectic, but it's time to get into... Feels like the season's over. It's not. It's literally just beginning. But the Australian component is close to being over. There's a couple of things we want to talk about, but let's just talk about the summer Tour Down Under. I think we've gone over ad nauseum that we've enjoyed seeing some youngish riders who've been around for a while. Carpe Diem, which has been great.
Yep.
What are your biggest takeaways?
I mean, as you mentioned, the first takeaway's got to be the young riders and what incredible talent.
Yep.
I think the next one for me is the opportunity that Green Edge or Jaco Alula, Liv Jaco Alula had and lost. They started out so strong at the Nationals.
You were getting so excited too.
Yeah, and a lot of the wording in the post was around... We've brought the jersey back home, so the team's got a real Australian feel again. But Tour Down Under was really tough for both the men's and the women's, and so was Cadel's.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a reminder of how the tides turn, I suppose. But I don't think they had the summer that they necessarily would have wanted to.
Yep.
It's also, to me, a really big standout has been the first time, I think, post-COVID that we've had everyone back. As in all the crowds, all the enthusiasm. Because I tell you, at Cadel, it was heaving on the climb. There were so many fans out, people running alongside, chalk names all over the road. It felt like the good old days.
Yep, like you were overseas in cycling, central basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then probably the other big takeaway for me was that we've got teams like AG Insurance Sudal, like the women's team that Sarah Gigante rides for, that are quite overlooked and underrated, who just do magnificent things.
Yep.
And so we talk about how good Green Edge started and that it didn't finish well, and then you've got these teams that are kind of considered smaller second-tier World Tour teams that just smash it out and dominate.
Yep.
And so that's cool. So
That's
Gigante wears the World Tour leaders jersey, takes it over to Europe.
Hello.
It's fantastic.
Welcome. Here I am.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that the Aussies that made statements made really emphatic ones, which I think was really great. But I want to give a shout out as well to the, I thought the broadcast, the coverage, and you're obviously part of this, so shout out to you guys. I was really happy to see the mainstream celebration of both of those events. They were leading sport bulletins. They were up the top in promos across the weeks. And I thought that was really, really good. And it was a major network potentially identifying that, wait a sec, this is something that's really, really exciting, has genuine global appeal, has a massive following. Oh, and we could make a little bit of money out of it too. And it was just really, really good to see, I thought. That it's got more of what it deserved. And hopefully, if they can keep improving the bill, as we've been saying, with different formats and all of that, to just make it a genuine festival, that's only going to improve. I thought they set a really nice benchmark.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just how live sport works really well.
Yeah.
The interviews, like James Tobin was doing start line interviews on Saturday and Sunday, that were great.
Yeah,
he had
his
everybody
energy
lining up in the background, and he was able to get access to the athletes straight away. And that's something, I said it to Merksy, that I've really missed throughout the year's coverage of cycling. You turn it on, you hear the commentators, great commentators, roll out, and you might have some pre-packaged kind of world feed interviews fed in here or there, but you don't have a pre-show. You don't have that time where you get the pump up and you get the background and you've got interviews with the potentials, and I really enjoy that. And we don't get any of that over the relay now.
No, we don't.
For the whole season.
They put a little bit of, I guess, East Coast winter into it, didn't they? Because it had a little bit of footy coverage. It had a little bit of that inside the wall kind of element to it, which I think was great, especially when we are trying to grow and raise awareness of just how incredible the sport is here, because we've got so many great athletes and such a great following. But it can get bigger, can't it, Merksy? You know plenty about this.
Yeah, and JT did a great job. And Pat Shaw said on one of the socials, he said, thanks for respecting the athletes. And I think that showed, you know. And seeing the personalities is something we don't get to see very often.
That's a really good point. I think that when you get those grabs, like a balls to the wall or a washed up at 23 or whatever it is, some really great sound bites that aren't dulled down by media training and super cautious approaches and all of that. It's candid. These guys are either at the end of the race and they're absolutely exhausted and whatever comes out of their mouth comes out, or they're about to take on some of the world's best, or indeed are the world's best, and full of confidence and want to share it. And that comes out, and I think it's awesome.
One of my favourites, and I asked JT to go and interview this rider, is a fella by the name of Luke Burns. He's a Queenslander. He came from triathlon. So he ended up winning the KOM at the Tour Down Under. But he just is really exciting athlete from watching him race. I just think he's got a lot of potential, and he's got a little bit to learn about racecraft, but he's clearly got the engine, and he's quite cool to watch. And I said to JT, go and interview him. And he looked like similar to the kids on their first day of school last week. He was like all wide-eyed and excited, even though the week before at a World Tour race, he'd won the KOM jersey. He was still almost like it was his first time on the line.
Awesome.
Like it was a really
so good.
wholesome, and you catch these moments. That's what's special about the Aussie summer is for Aussies. Now with Lawrence Pithy goes off and wins all these World Tour races, we remember his first one. Or Rosita Reinhardt, the same thing. And for Luke Burns, we remember where it started.
Yeah.
And you get to go on the journey with them.
And ride along with them, no pun intended there. But again, it's such a sport for raw passion because it puts them in those situations where you're going to win, you're going to lose, you're going to crash. There's some very heavy outcomes that come with it. And that when that's matched in the media and what they say. And finally, if I may, on passion, I've just loved the Aussie passion from the national team, the likes of Plappy and that, who have just so clearly prioritised Australia and representing Australia and being part of this setup, which I think sends a beautiful message to the future, the present, the past as well. And I think the amount of cyclists, you could cut together a really good little montage of Aussie cyclists and say, what do you want to do in 24?
Oh, yeah.
Olympics. And that was great. It was so good to see that we're not, chasing riches over national pride and representing. I'm heartened by it. I think
the
it's
national pride is strong.
Yeah.
That's a big takeaway.
Flows through them all. It does.
And how nice to not have to watch bike racing at 1 o'clock in the morning for
I think the couch peloton were loving it, but so many Europeans were literally like T-2 days until we get to sleep and watch cycling coverage at normal hours.
At normal time.
And we were like, T-2 days until we can't sleep anymore and have to watch it at unusual hours.
Yeah.
We're spoilt in the summer.
We are. Let's get off the bike. Or get onto a different kind of bike. Kate, esports and Kate Bates are very closely tied. You've got a pretty exciting, it's not an announcement. We're not a news service, by the way. We're not breaking this news. We're just talking about it.
Yes.
But my whoosh, United Arab Emirates, a match made in bike heaven. Can I say that?
Yeah, sure you can.
Maybe.
No, look, it was really exciting. They announced at the end of last year that they were going to host the World Championships esports. So it got changed the time of year. It's now in October. But the best part about it, they're changing the model. And so now they're having in real life finals. So on trainers in a stadium.
That's awesome.
As I think it should be for the finals. And they've got quite a cool qualification process where... And they're going to release all the nitty-gritty details, but the overview is about 80% will qualify spots for their nations, and then the national team will choose who they want to represent. Awesome. But then about 20% will earn their own spot, regardless of any national team involvement or sign-off, which is really cool because it literally opens it up, takes away the politics a bit.
Yep.
So anybody, like as long as you go through all of the testing and all that sort of stuff, the integrity, the anti-doping, you don't have to be part of the national team already. You might be just an esports rider. You might be just starting. It really opens the door. I'm really excited by it.
I think it's great. I think it should be in front. People love this sort of thing. We've seen it in other esports, so they come from everywhere to watch it.
It's so good. And, and my Whoosh has Parramatta Park in it.
Does it?
Like Parramatta Park, like my Parramatta
the
cycling
Parramatta
club,
Park.
the Parramatta Park.
That you have crossed 40,000 times, I believe.
I'm so excited by it because one of the designers and guys that's been quite integral in pulling this all together is a guy by the name of Matt Smithson, who I grew up racing with in Parramatta.
Nice.
And I believe that when they were putting together Worlds, he mapped it for them. He was like, I'll take you on my local ride.
Okay, so is it accurate enough?
It's super accurate.
Is it? That's
like
great.
It has Old Government House on there. It's
Does
got the
it?
Parramatta River. Yeah, it's so cool. I got so much joy when I discovered Parramatta Park. And I just, I think, God rest his soul, my dad would have been so thrilled to have seen this. Because, look, he was a bit of a Luddite, didn't love technology. But if he had have seen that, he would have loved it.
Would have made his day. That's amazing. So good.
Did it have the jail? Was the jail on there? The old jail?
Well, the jail's not in Parramatta Park, so...
Oh, okay.
No, it's adjacent to. But we could get a course extension around the jail.
Okay.
And, well, you know what is right next to Parramatta Park? And actually, I think it is kind of in one of the background shots.
I was going to ask.
Is the mighty home of the Parramatta Eels.
Yeah, with the people in Parramatta Eels jerseys walking around the park.
Look, I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask if that can happen.
Go the blue and gold. So can you see the Peter Sterling statue or the Ray Price statue?
It's a bit blurry, but I think if you look hard enough, you probably can. I wonder
of course it would be.
Yeah, I wonder if we can get an Eels jersey in game.
If anyone can do it, it's you.
Not popular enough.
Merksy, we'll just...
heavens.
I can't wait until they put the Gateway Bridge up for Merksy.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll be up just for my house to the Hyperdome, just a gentle stroll down the street.
If we can get the Velo Way on there, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh, the Velo Way. Make it easy to get to. Anyway, that's for another day. But yes, the Velo Way would be great. Yeah. That would be fantastic. Now, two people I know, one of them I know personally, the other I've never met, but I've heard of, who love having a bit of a gripe with the UCI. One of them is in this studio right now. One of them isn't. One of them is Kate Bates. She's not the topic of this next discussion.
I am not.
But Johan Bruneel doesn't mind a pot shot. He's at it again.
He is.
Now, this is awkward for us to dig into because we're trying to get the UCI president onto the show, but this is involving Johan having a red-hot crack at him.
Yes.
So you can handle it, Kate. I'm just going to step out for a cuppa and let me know when this segment's over.
No,
I'm kidding.
Bruneel has essentially thrown a sledge out on social media saying that all he does is shake hands and meet influential people, but he does nothing else for the sport.
Yep. Similar criticism that was thrown at Infantino at FIFA for years.
I think it's a bit oversimplified.
Maybe just a touch.
Yeah. But Merksy and I were talking about it, and Merksy, you had a really good point about that's part of his job, right? To shake hands and meet people.
Sure, you got to shake a lot of hands. But we should, for those who don't know, Kate, what's Bruneel's background? He's kind of not in favour with the UCI because of an association with...
Look, good point, Merksy, because I think...
Bee and Bonnet.
People newer to the sport may know his name from... a lesser-known cycling podcast.
Yes.
He does with one lesser-known, Mr. Armstrong.
L. Armstrong, yes.
But when they both got banned from the sport, and Armstrong, the whole doping scandal, Bruneel was very, very critical of how the UCI handled it, how in the past they'd handled it, how they'd overlooked a lot of stuff and been quite corrupt and almost endorsed it until publicly it was a bad look, and then they'd sort of thrown them to the wolves.
And let's be frank here that Brunel, this has been him. This gripe, this bee in the bonnet, as Merksy describes it perfectly, has kind of defined him ever since.
It has, and when he got then banned entirely for life from the sport, he was also very critical about that, saying, I have not done anything worse than what a lot of other people have done, but I am really seen as...
You're picking on me.
The fall guy. Yeah. Look, I think it's actually really hard when people who have done something quite horrendous like they did around doping, that they do maybe have good points, but you don't necessarily feel like they deserve to have the airtime to view their opinions.
Yes.
But I think that Lapatian he's achieved a lot in the sport. He really has. He's opened a lot of doors, but there's also a lot of things that they haven't really been focusing on that he's received a fair bit of criticism for, that he hasn't been very forward facing on it. And then he does pop up shaking a lot of hands.
Yeah, okay. The thing, his criticism over the years has followed a slightly predictable timeline, of course, being heavily implicated, being like, oh, well, the way you guys handle this is shit, and then criticising and not getting the response he wanted and saying, well, your leadership's awful, you couldn't run a bloody,
But I don't know. I mean,
Chook Raffle, thank you,
Chook Raffle. But
then he got banned, and he's like, oh, well,
but Brunel was criticising him off the back of the MyWhoosh launch in the UAE.
Yeah.
They're launching a World Championships. Why wouldn't the president of the UCI be there?
Of course
Why
he's
wouldn't
gonna
he
be there.
have photo ops and shake hands?
Has Brunel's history of this, does it tarnish, if he comes out with everything, is it a bit of a boy who cried wolf in general now because he's got such a long line of complaint?
Oh, not necessarily, but I think it's just a bit like that's oversimplifying and you're criticising for no reason.
Yep. Merksy?
Well, how do you say it?
Lapatian.
He's coming to Brisbane, Olympic City, and apparently he wants to be the head of the IOC. So it could be a coincidence.
That's it. Yes. That's what it was. In my mind, I was like, is he running for politics or something in France? No, that's what it was. He wants to apparently be IOC. But I tell you, that's one of the most political appointments you'll get.
Yeah, I mean, there's no corruption or backhand deals in the IOC.
No.
So that's perfect.
It's like, FIFA World Cup, Olympics, absolutely.
Not at all. But he is known to be a mover and a shaker, but I suppose you have different leadership styles, and if you're running any organisation, you also can't just sit in your office and not be seen.
Well, yeah, I'm curious on that. And for Brunel, if you were in that position and this event was happening, being launched, would you not go? Would that be like, no, you don't want me there?
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't. You
so
would be
I
there.
reckon if you're going to have a crack, make it about something real. The timing of this one probably falls into there's probably more valid things to criticise him about bucket.
Yeah. And if you've got a long history of criticism, you've got to pick your moments. You've got to pick your targets, I think, very carefully, because people go, him again? Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, focus on sock height. Trust me. Just start small with the UCI and then you can build up to taking down the president.
Have I told you the story about Wollongong when Lapatian was on set?
No.
We were on stand broadcasting, and the set, we had this little white table and it was looking a little bit bare. So I brought my world champion jersey and put it on the table because it looked quite cool. The design of the world champion jersey has changed a bit. So if you know your jerseys, you can date it a bit, and it was clearly not a current one. And he sat down on set to do an interview with us, and he looked at me and he goes, "Whose jersey's that? Where'd you get that from?" And I said, "Oh, it's mine." And he said, "Did you buy it?" And I said, "No, I was World Points Race champion in 2007. And to his credit, he was quite mortified. He was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I just could tell that it was an older style jersey." And
Oh, congratulations to you. You found the merchandise store.
yeah, but it was a funny kind of awkward moment.
You can retell that story when we get him in the studio.
I was about to say, I'm not sure if he remembers, but I'll let him know.
I'll tell you what,
I'll put it in the middle of the desk here.
Or we'll put a Parramatta jersey there, and I'll see the reaction when he questions where that came from.
Oh.
Yeah, it's okay to question my world champion status.
But not my Parramatta.
Don't go near Para. Don't do it. On the Wheelhouse podcast, it is Track Nations coming up, Track Nations Cup, Kate. Now, that brought a massive smile to your face. Just the mention of it.
I nearly squealed, didn't I?
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to try it again.
I love track
Hey,
cycling.
Kate, Track Nations Cup's coming up. Hang on. Sorry, Merksy, close on Kate. Here we go. Hey, Kate, Track Nations Cup's coming up. There we go. There's your promo, Merksy.
Nailed it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved racing track, but I love watching track. It's still in my mind is unbelievable that it's not more of a commercial product and we don't see it on primetime television.
Agree.
But it's the biggest participation in a Nations Cup. Now, for anybody who's been into track cycling for more than a few years, we're talking about World Cups. They changed the name. They've rebranded for World Cups.
Yeah.
That you qualify for Olympics, World Championships, all that jazz.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest field they've had
across
ever.
sport. When you say biggest participation, are you talking about?
No, for a track cycling
good.
World/Nations Cup.
That's awesome.
I mean,
That's
I'm pretty sure that they brought a freighter over for the European teams because on my count, there's about 30 Brits.
Wow.
Half of Italy's here. Poland have pretty much sent the National Guard. It's cool. It's really exciting. Filippo Ganna. He's
Fast Philippe.
He's warmed up at the Tour Down Under in Cadels and he's there. Joshy Tarling.
Is David Beckham coming?
David Beckham is coming, as is Ronaldo.
Okay,
They're
great.
two Indian sprinters.
Yep.
I'm not kidding. That's their
Not the
names.
former Real Madrid teammates.
No, but certainly for Ronaldo, his father was a fan, so he named him Ronaldo.
I love that. That's
It's
fantastic.
fantastic.
David Beckham's had a pretty good year too.
They're actually really good, both of them.
Yeah.
A real potential to be on the podium for Team Sprint or Kieran. So
Yeah, you know what?
the rise of Beckham and Ronaldo again.
We love it. And you know you've had a good year when you get name fund on the Wheelhouse Cycling podcast. Because David Beckham and Ronaldo
I
both
know. Boom.
up in lights.
What about, is Richo? Is Richo going to be there?
Richo's going to be there.
Well, we better have the swear jar out then, won't we, eh?
Sam Wellsford, he's going to be there.
Super Sam and his
Super
massive
Sam,
thighs.
Yes. Georgia Baker, she's going to be there as well. On the
Love it.
ladies' side, one of my favourites from Canada, Maggie Coles-Lister. And she's one of my favourites because our daughter Maggie, when she was watching her on the television, got beyond excited to see somebody with her name.
Awesome.
Because it's quite unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty common traditional English name, but in terms of sport representation, there's not a lot of Maggies.
Not as much.
So she was pretty excited. And look, I just would really like to get a quick little interview with Joshy Tarling.
Yeah.
Just for Father Michael.
I was going to say,
and
Father
Mother
Michael,
Dawn.
Can we go via them?
Well, I've got a media pass. I'm just going to
Brilliant.
walk straight up to Joshy
Yep.
and say hi to your mum and dad, and he will be like, who the heck are you?
Yeah. That's good. Go up and say that instead of being up going and saying, hello, I've been
Yes.
watching you from afar without you knowing. Can we talk?
Well, so instead of like, I'm Michael Tarling, I'm Josh Tarling's dad, it'll be like, I'm Josh Tarling and I'm Michael Tarling's son.
Yeah.
It'll be
Can't
great.
wait. That'll be
I'm
great.
looking forward to it. I'm very excited about it. So we're calling it for 3 days for the world feed. And
McStory,
get on it.
McStory.
With Scott McStory. So look, I'm doing research, but he can tell a story. So if I run out of things
Scotty.
to say, I think you'll be fine.
Some of the posts, if you see Scott around social media, some of the posts he's been sharing from his glory days, incredible.
Some great photos.
Great
And I
photos.
saw an Instagram post the other day from one of the German riders, Roger Kluger, who's a very good points race rider, Madison, Omnium. And he was on the plane. He must have been flying business class on his way out. And he had these things around his legs that looked, I don't even know how to describe them, like inflatable pressure things on his legs that were going like vroom, vroom,
Oh, one of those old, I remember those. Do you remember with the vibration machine, but there used to be a version of that
it's
you could...
but it's like a full leg thing. Like
Compression socks.
Compression, like an
blow up
ultrasound
one.
yeah,
compression
blow up.
sock.
I've got to look at the brand. They looked really cool.
Let's get them on.
I know. I'll have to see. there'll be journalists there asking them the really hard questions.
Yeah.
I will be asking, can you get those at Bike Bug?
I wonder if you can. Once again, Bike Bug, supporters of this podcast,
Yes.
and you can get support from them as well with a 10% discount. Code WHEELHOUSE. That's all, just one word. People have been taking advantage of this and absolutely loving it. We're yet to find out if they sell a bag that you'll be able to fit your bike into, but we'll sort it out.
Now, while we're talking track, and I've got Sam Welsford on my mind, I have to tell a very funny story I heard at the Cadel's race. So Sam we've talked about this, like they call him the Wombat. He's a solid build.
Yep.
Right? You know, there's no question.
He's got a tight 5 build.
He doesn't necessarily look like a cyclist. He looks like an athlete, but maybe not a cyclist. Anyway, at the, I don't know what race it was, but anyway, they saw Sam Welsford in the airport. And this is another Pro Tour team, World Tour team. I don't want to say who because I don't want to give away my source, but they saw Sam, didn't know who he was, and asked one of the Aussies, is that their mechanic? He can't be one of the riders.
Who said that? We'll cut it out.
Yeah, go on.
Well, it was in the Bahrain Victorious team.
Oh, big reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not cutting it out.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for the nickname,
So-
Sam Welsford, the mechanic.
Yes, and so apparently the whole team, as a joke, calls him the DSM mechanic.
I love it. It's like the Jason Statham franchise called the mechanic. He kicks everyone's ass.
So there you go. And that
perfect.
just made me laugh because I thought it's like utmost respect that they call him that and he's toweling them up.
I wonder if
winning
you
all these
prefer the
stages.
mechanic over the Wombat.
Oh, look, to be honest, if you were choosing your own nickname, I'm not sure either would be at the top of your list.
The mechanical Wombat.
The mechanical one.
There you go. Thank you, Sam. You're very welcome. That's a gift
Hey,
from
that
us.
makes for a pretty easy statue in Spoke.
Doesn't it just?
And he's a Western Australian, so
it's all just falling into place.
It is, it
good
really
luck
is.
to the Aussies at the cyclocross
Yeah.
worlds as well. Max Hobson headlining
Yes.
for us, Kate.
I wanted to mention him. Yes, now friend of the show,
Indeed.
Maxi.
G'day, Maxi.
The Cyclocross Worlds, 2nd to the 4th of February in Tabor in Czech Republic. It's about an hour and a half south of Prague, if you're wondering where it is on a map.
Terrible place for a holiday. Yeah.
And they've had a lot of cyclocross racing there over the years, so it's a pretty well-known course. But he's had to crowdfund to get over there and to even fund the whole trip because it's not a supported discipline within Oz Cycling. So I'm going to put his GoFundMe link in our... We
Great.
don't normally do that, but I'm going to put his GoFundMe link in our show notes because I think get behind it.
Yeah, find the funding.
Yeah, good luck, Max.
Absolutely.
And I think I said last week that Wout, Swearjar, and Pidcock would be racing worlds. They're not.
Wout and Feathers.
No. So it'll be Vanderpool and Fem Van Empel on the ladies' side that are
Great.
big names.
Big headlines.
Will
And
you
Max
still
Hobson.
watch? Will you still watch if
Yes.
Wout's not there with his
Well-
big hair?
Look, good question. I want to watch, but I actually couldn't figure out how to watch.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I think maybe Flow Bikes, but
Okay. Well, if you
I'll
if you
work
know,
on that.
let us know.
Yeah, let us
or
know.
indeed, we'll let you know when we work it out. The Wheelhouse Cycling Podcast. Wout van Aert has been mentioned twice. Peter Sagan has been mentioned twice. I think we've hit our quotas for the day. Congratulations,
yeah,
guys.
I think thrice for Pedo.
Was it thrice for Pedo? Okay, there you go. Sorry, Merxy, you this week. It's you that has to face an editorial inquisition at the end of the show.
Pedo will never be cut out of the show, ever.
Well, he does. I mean, Merxy does the editing, so
I tell you
suppose
what,
he's got the power
If
there.
we were going to the cyclocross worlds, it's riding distance to the resort, just across Europe.
Yeah. we'll get
Easy.
there.
Strava, it'd be a massive rocket ship,
like
but it'd
where
be
you've-
worth it.
Tax deductible.
Fully tax
Yeah.
deductible
Yep.
too.
Business cost.
And now you can stay here and enjoy the cocktail, look at a big photo of me, sit on a couch featuring a photo of me, and over there is a statue of me.
Worst accent. Oh my god.
You'd love it.
It's terrible.
You're just you're just not jealous. You're just disappointed that I didn't get you a weekend there for Christmas, but it's coming this
Next year.
Christmas, I promise.
next year.
Before we go on the Wheelhouse Cycling Podcast, Season 2, Episode 4, 70 something, I just wanted this is great. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to see one of my favourite bands from back in the day, the one and only Blink-182, are coming to Australia. Their drummer is coming, even though he's got a phobia of flying after being involved in a plane accident. Fair enough, but very excited.
Very exciting.
rambling link here is that cycling as a random link to Blink-182 that we wanted to celebrate today because we spoke a lot about the demise of GCN and the wonderful work that the journalists involved there and the entire team contributed that was thrust from them rather suddenly and brutally late last year. Now, Cyrus Monk is a bit of a YouTube sensation, you might say, cycling enthusiast, has penned an ode, Kate.
Yes, well, he rides for Q36.5. He's a pro tour
He's
rider.
all over it.
He's very musically clever and inclined, and he's penned an ode to GCN that is to the. I think here's the link you're looking for. That is to the tune of "I Miss You" by Blink-182.
Yeah, from the album Enema of the State. It was a great album.
It's brilliant.
Good song.
So I think we can leave off today's show with this beautiful, beautiful ode to GCN.
Like, share, subscribe, tell everyone you know. This is the Wheelhouse Podcast. Shout out to Cyrus Monk. Finding time to pen this one.
Hold on.
RIP.
We better check Merksy.
Sorry.
Can you find
we
it?
didn't talk
Oh,
about
yes.
I didn't even ask.
Didn't talk
Sorry,
about this in
Merksy.
the meeting.
Sorry.
Have you got it, Merksy? or?
No, yeah, sure.
Merksy's just like, just talk amongst yourselves. So
Talk about
Keep talking.
So I guess, like to peel back the curtains a bit, what we do here, we have a rundown and we usually follow it. And if anything comes up, it's usually, not really great form.
that's the rundown. Just-
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
And you say we follow it, but I've got arrows and crossouts.
Yeah. How are you going there, Merksy?
Yeah.
Have we found it?
Oh, yeah, no, this should work. Let's see.
Right.
Listen to this. This is pretty cool.
Third-year race in Spain tonight. Don't waste your time on the Eurosport, please. Just bring back GCN.
Incredible.
It's very talented.
Discovery, if you hear me, just
So he's tapping a...
GCN.
Is that chain lube?
I miss you.
Love it.
In loving memory
Bit of drumming,
GCN.
2 guitars,
How clever.
vocals,
Yep.
Playing some sort of mini flute.
Put the link to that up too.
A recorder. I don't know.
Is that a recorder?
I don't know. I don't know my musical instruments. I'll be very...
Well, we
honest
do know
about
about
that.
recorders because we're throwing about 4 of them in the wheelie bin.
That's true. Yes, the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've finished their recorder career.
Parents understand.
No more. Anyway.
I miss you.
I miss you. Wheelhouse Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Tell everyone you know the fun, the action never stops. Cheeky reminder, we're absolutely not a news service. Don't come to us for news. Do come to us for everything else, though.
Yes.
We'll see you next time.
I miss you.
Thanks for the notice on that one.
Can you sing on Channel 7 next time?
I miss
Can
you.
you sing
I
at the
miss
Olympics?
you.
Oh,
Oh, Merksy.
hitting stop.